So for the game against Northern Kentucky came into this one is tied for the best record in the Horizon League regular season wise with 9-4, at least as of this recording here. And that puts them, like, even though their Horizon League record is 1-2, they're still, a pretty substantial team in the league. They're winners of 8 of their last 9 coming into it, but the only loss that they had was a really close one against Purdue Fort Wayne. And remember, Oakland beat Purdue Fort Wayne 101-92. So just kind of keep that in mind as far as a common opponent. I mentioned that in the preview that I had on the Instagram page here. And this game, typically on the road at Northern Kentucky, is very difficult, and it's one that many teams in the Horizon League don't end up winning. And it's something that if you can get a win in that category, that really sets you apart from the rest of the league. That's exactly what happened in this game. But it did not come easy for Oakland. Early on, it was the big man for NKU, LJ Wells, who really quickly had 8 and 5 and was just dominating things, especially in that first half. He would kind of continue to do that throughout the game. And most likely, part of that was really early 2 fouls for Baru that essentially took him out of the first half. He only ended up with 7 minutes in that first half, kind of letting everybody else have to pick up the slack for the preseason Horizon League Player of the Year. And after the first few minutes of that first half, we'll say the first quarter of the game, that's when Oakland was trying to adjust for his absence there, but ended up kind of still keeping it close. It was a close game the entire way, but especially once Michael Hogue and Isaac Garrett started to get really involved in this game, that's what really made the difference. They would end this game, Michael Hogue with 18, Isaac Garrett with 15. We'll get to Brody Robinson a little bit later because he was super crucial down the stretch of the game here. But it was a game that was 18 lead changes. It was 12 times with it tied. Oakland did have the lead for mostly 26 minutes of the game would be their lead. Only 8 minutes of that lead for Northern Kentucky. Everything else was when the game was tied. But it was just a super close game overall, but neither team shooting the 3 very well. That also kind of contributing to that, where at the end of the game, it was Oakland shooting 33% from deep, 6 of 18, and Northern Kentucky was 6 of 26, which was good for 23%. So it was really going to be one that was dominated kind of inside the arc, in the paint. And as far as that is concerned, Oakland actually outscored in the paint 40-50, but still all of which keeping it close. Brett White making a few threes that are always going to be crucial in games where shooting is hard to come by. Brett White is usually your guy who you can depend on that, even though he was 2 of 8 from deep in this one. But skipping all the way back to the final 90 seconds of the game, where it was close back and forth, one possession. Neither team was really able to put a dent into each other's lead or deficit. Oakland was the one kind of in front most of it, like I was mentioning. But in the final 90 seconds of play, the score was 75-74. Northern Kentucky had the lead, and Oakland was getting the ball out coming out of a timeout. It was a smooth pass from Isaac Garrett to Baru, where honestly, for Isaac Garrett, there's been a few games where he's had one of those behind-the-back passes that would go to nobody, and like they're not ready for it, they're not paying attention, and it ends up looking like a really sloppy play. Now as the season's starting to go on, those passes are becoming a little bit more anticipated, expected, and a lot more stylish because they're working when Isaac Garrett has the ball. So he was able to find Baru right underneath the basket for him to score to get Oakland the lead 76-75, and that would really be a lead that would carry them all the way to victory. Oakland then forces a timeout and gets the ball back themselves, and are able to kind of keep control of it. As the clock starts to tick down, Northern Kentucky's still fighting back, but it's getting to a point where they have to force Oakland to foul, and they were great, and they were smart enough to find Brody Robinson with the ball and be the one who was fouled. And kind of out of character for him at some points in this season, he hasn't been shooting the free throws like we would expect an Oakland point guard to do. Was not the case in this game. He was 8 for 8 all game long, and specifically in that 90 seconds, he was a perfect 5 for 5. That maintained Oakland's lead all the way down to 82-77 is your final score. Oakland is now the sole team at the top of the Horizon League, 2-0 in conference play. Despite the 6-6 record, you'll see, at least at the end of this game. We'll get to the Michigan State in a second here, but that puts Oakland in high company with the Horizon League. Those December games that can be so dangerous and so crazy when you're not prepared, you don't have a ton of time to prep, you're not in rhythm of conference play. Getting those early wins is just huge for Oakland. And taking a look at the box score in more detail, Michael Hogue, 18, leads the Golden Grizzlies in points with 8 rebounds, 4 of them on the offensive glass as well. Isaac Garrett had a double-double, 15 and 11, also 4 offensive rebounds. And Brody Robinson, 16 points, 4 rebounds, and 6 assists. Like I said before, 8 of 8 from the free throw line. And another huge piece in this game, and it was kind of part of the scouting of Northern Kentucky, was that they were either the or top of the country or around there in forcing turnovers. They play a zone as well, but it's a lot more, as I was hearing in the radio broadcast, it's a lot more of an aggressive style of a zone. They're attacking passes and forcing those turnovers very often. They're willing to put the heat on the ball, sacrificing an open man to the other side because they get those turnovers so often. But Oakland was still able to keep control of the ball. Only 10 turnovers in a game where that was their strong suit against a team where they specialize in forcing turnovers. Oakland was able to stay about at their average of 10 turnovers in that game. That one was huge. I mean, with how close the game was, you needed to keep control of the ball that way because it was not going to be a game where you can easily swing it right back. You had to scratch and claw for every point that you were getting in this one. So that essentially is the wrap on this game here. It's, as Campy said in the post-press conference, it's not a hurdle that many teams in the Horizon League are going to clear. Oakland was able to clear this one, 2-0 in Horizon League play, but they got a quick turnaround going back home to Little Caesars Arena to face off once again against Tom Izzo and his Michigan State Spartans in another game that is a little bit more about the result on the court, although what was played on the court was still very entertaining, still very close and encouraging for both teams. So we'll get into that in just a little bit here. We'll pause for a second here, and we'll get into now part 2 of the GioMoShow here, where we'll talk about not only the game on the court at Little Caesars Arena, a little bit about why I wasn't able to attend it this year, and a little bit as to the philosophy and the relationship between those two coaches and how it applies to all of college basketball. We'll get deep into it here. Come up next on the break, after the break here on the GioMoShow.